fantastic Foley work. Did you see the video? Somebody made a 3D printed, because they have one of those, the new Razer flip phones, the new, I don't trust folding touchscreen technology.
No, me neither.
But they 3D printed a case so that it looks like a tricorder.
Oh,
and
really?
So you flip it open, and they designed like an app or whatever that it has all of the touchscreen.
And see, I think I'd rather have one that looked like the classic communicator, you know. So when you flipped it open, and the top was the gold part, and the bottom was the black part, and that would be fun.
Well, today on the Space Show, innovation, technology, don't trust the transporters. Welcome, Space Show. I'm your host, Lieutenant Commander Rebecca Frost, joined by Admiral Kerry Jackson.
Hi.
Ensign Tony and Commander Rob, they're lost on a space mission somewhere. So if they're
stuck in the transporter buffer.
Stuck in the transporter buffer. So, okay. The episodes we're going to talk about today. We are now into season 6 of Next Generation.
Yes.
We're nearing the end of Next Generation, the TV show. And today we're going to talk about Realm of Fear, Man of the People, Relics, and Schisms. Some episodes that I don't like. I didn't like most of these episodes.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's only one that I really like.
Yeah. Okay, I would say there's like 1.5 episodes I liked. So let's start with season 6, episode 2, Realm of Fear. Overcoming his fear of transporter, Lieutenant Barclay joins an away team, only to find something in the beam with him. I pulled up this episode, and Barclay is right there on the loading screen or whatever, and I was like, God damn it. A Barclay episode?
Oh, another Barclay episode.
It's fine. I'm trying, like everybody else aboard the Enterprise, trying so hard to not dislike him and give him the benefit of the doubt.
You're funny. I'm trying not to hate him.
Right. He's just, you know how there's some people? There's just some people.
Yeah.
So the Enterprise locates a scientific research ship, the USS Yosemite, which went missing while exploring plasma streams. The ship is stranded in the middle of a plasma stream, and there's no way of knowing whether anyone is alive. So Geordi assigns reluctant engineer Lieutenant Reg Barclay, whose idea it was to help him bridge both ships' transport systems and join Riker's away team. But Barclay has a transporter deconstruction phobia, and so he hesitates, which leads Barclay from pulling out at the last second, and then he goes to anxiety counseling with Troy, and then Barclay goes later alone, where Deanna teaches him tapping. That's not what she called it. I can't remember what she called it, but she
had the scientific name for it.
Or it was something that Beta Zeds did, and so I expected him to do it multiple times throughout the episode, and once.
Well, it's because Reg thinks that he's smarter than she is. I mean, we know about this character. He is extraordinarily flawed. As smart as he is, he's extraordinarily flawed. And he thinks he's smarter than she is.
This is the type of guy who gets a BetterHelp subscription, pays for it for 3 months, and then calls it good.
Yeah.
And then he's all
I'm done.
fixed.
I'm cured.
So Geordi and Worf figure out there was a clast on board the ship, and it originated in the transporter section, which is strange since the transporter itself is working. Riker's team finds victims of the explosion, which may fit the Ferengi report that Picard receives of an alleged Cardassian attack. Barclay beams back, and he notices an eel-shaped entity which floats to him and touches his left arm in the phased matter stream. But a full transporter diagnostic finds no problem, so he fears he is the victim of an incurable transporter psychosis, although none has been reported on the modern models for a year. Barclay researches symptoms of transporter psychosis and realizes that he has most of the symptoms, including dehydration, hallucinations, and so on, and concludes that he is suffering from the same. It is at this point in the episode where I go, oh no, not me relating to Barclay, because hate flying, as we've talked about on the show previously.
Yes, that's
absolutely
true.
Hate flying. And so not only do I have to get over my fears of flying, But of course, once I'm done flying, oh no, do I have COVID? And I spend the next week or so thinking I have COVID. But actually, so far, I'm unbreakable and have not yet gotten, knock on wood,
Yeah,
the Rona.
knock really loud because it's surging again.
Yeah.
Go and get your updated shot.
I gotta. Oh, maybe I'll do that today. So Beverly transports over one dead body from the ship and finds evidence of ionized burns all over the body. The body was exposed to ionized gas or high energy plasma prior to death. Geordi found fragments of a broken sample container on the ship and speculates that maybe the Yosemite tried to transport the plasma from the stream onto the ship inside a container and somehow it got away from them, exploded, and killing everyone. Data and Geordi tried to recreate their experiment on board the Enterprise. Maybe don't.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Are you sure you want to do that, guys?
Barclay is acting increasingly erratic, and so worried about him, Deanna orders him to take a leave, during which he apparently experiences some physical transformation of his possibly infected arm. He gets transporter rash. What did I call it? Pattern buff rash or something. A buff rash, I think is what I called it. So he decides to do another transporter test during which the eel reappears. Barclay escalates this to the senior staff on the ship. Geordi realizes either incident with Barclay would fit with the same ionic fluctuation phenomenon recorded by the otherwise acceptable transporter readings. So Picard now authorizes an attempt to contain it. Because remember, something I love about Star Trek, if you think something is wrong, people are going to believe you and try to help you figure it out.
Exactly.
Beverly finds the same ionization patterns in Barclay's left arm that she found in the tissue of the dead body that she recovered from the Yosemite. Geordi transports the plasma inside a sample container reinforced by a force field. The plasma explodes, but it's contained by the force field. Again, what are we doing? Geordi picks up the biomagnetic signals from the plasma in his visor, and Barclay's physical changes on his arm spread to his face and are now visible to Geordi and Data. Geordi explains that the life forms in the plasma are microbes, one of which might have been caught inside the buffer of the Yosemite transporter, which is what Barclay saw. Some of these microbes are inside Barclay now. Geordi figures out a way to remove these microbes by sending Barclay into the transporter again, Barclay having the worst day of his life on board the Enterprise. But this time, Barclay will be required to stay suspended by 30 to 40 seconds. Inside, he sees that there are actually 4 microbes in the pattern buffer. There were 4 crew members missing from the Yosemite, and he figures maybe the Yosemite crew tried the same thing as the Enterprise before the plasma blew up. Grabs a hold of one microbe and materializes with one whole crew member.
Hey, look what I found.
I found this pan in the pattern buffer. Worf and his team bring back the other 3. The reprogrammed biofilter removes the microbes from Barclay. We're off on another Tuesday on the Enterprise. Not loved. What I did like about this episode, this is the first time we've seen what it looks like to be inside the transporter. You get a point of view shot from being transported. And qualmed some of my fears, honestly.
You're a little less McCoy now?
A little less McCoy, because I think a lot of my fear stemmed from not knowing, right? And not knowing what you would experience, but seeing the cool transformation from the Enterprise over to the Yosemite was actually pretty cool.
Well, you speak of a fear of flying. Brandon Braga, who wrote this episode, he said he was inspired by his own fear of flying.
Good for him.
He says, certainly it was one of my most personal episodes. People around here say I'm Barclay. I hate flying, and that's where the idea came from. If I lived in the 24th century, I'd be afraid to transport. So I enjoyed exploring some of the deeper neuroses that Barclay had.
And what a character to project your neuroses onto.
Exactly.
Another piece of trivia. Barclay asks Geordi if anything strange has ever happened to him while using the transporter, and Geordi answers, not really. However, previous season, the next phase, Geordi and Ensign Ro were lost in a transporter malfunction where everybody thought they were dead and they thought they were ghosts. Is that not a transporter malfunction, Geordi?
Sounds to me like it is, but there you go. But he was always He was very scientific about the whole thing, though, where Ro was spiritual. So maybe
Yes.
that was the take.
So maybe that's how he justifies by saying, like, not really.
No, because I'm
I
a
came
science
back.
guy. Yeah.
I was unharmed.
I conquered the transporter. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, every time he shows up, I forget that he's on the show. And I'm like, damn, I was hoping that was the last time.
Oh, yeah, you're still here.
Oh, right. You haven't been reassigned yet. Let's talk about the next episode, Man of the People.
Do we have to talk about this? Ugh.
Brief. You just scurry right through it.
You know,
when the Enterprise comes to the rescue of an ambassador and his air quotes mother,
Yeah.
Deanna finds herself attracted to him and seeks to comfort him upon her death. This, once again,
yeah,
shouting at my TV, please, please, can we give Deanna something to do that isn't this?
that isn't her being manipulated,
Yes.
or used or something.
So the Enterprise rescues a transport ship after it's attacked, carrying Ambassador Vess Alcar to a mediation between two constantly warring planetary factions. It's always the ambassador between two warring species. Do you find that's the case?
Well, I mean, I guess it's part of her job, but at the same time, why they keep doing this to Deanna? You would think by season 6 that the goddamn writers' room would be like, let's not do that to her anymore.
Yeah. So the ambassador arrives with his 93-year-old mother, Sev Maelor, whose aggression and warnings not to have close contact with Vess are actually rather scary. Sev tells Troy to stay away from Alcar. Meanwhile, Alcar wants Troy to help him with the Saronia negotiations once they get there. Sev's hateful thoughts are troubling to Troy, but soon Sev is found dead, because we can blame it on old age. Dr. Crusher doubts the natural cause of death, but without danger to the ship, Picard must respect the ambassador's objection against an autopsy on traditional grounds. Troy agrees to take part in a ceremony with Alcar, requiring empathy. During the ceremony, both of them hold one sacred stone each, and at the end of the ceremony, Alcar transfers the energy of his stone into Deanna's. And after which she gets her period.
Yep.
She turns much more emotional and irritated, and she chews out ensigns for whining when they seek her out for her counsel. She also becomes very seductive and wants to have sex with Alcar, but he pushes her back, insulting her in the process.
Yeah.
So Troy ends up having sex with a random ensign in her cabin, which Riker notices because of course he would.
Yeah.
And Riker's like, hey, Deanna, what's up? And I'm quoting IMDb here.
Okay.
Deanna initiates violent sex with Riker, but ends up drawing blood by scratching him at the back of his neck.
Mm-hmm. But again, is this her of her own free will doing these things, or is she being manipulated again? Like they keep doing to this poor woman.
And I gotta wonder if some of it is genetics too, because in the scene where Riker comes into her quarters and he's like, Deanna, what's going on? She's channeling Luoxana a lot. Like, she's dressing provocatively. Her hair is all crazy. Her makeup's all crazy. Like, she looks beautiful, right? But she's also a little aggressive.
I just can't help but feel like this is not her choice.
No.
I can't help but feel that.
But also, Carrie, I don't know if you've ever gotten your period. We women tend to do a lot of crazy stuff the week leading up to our period that afterwards we're like, oh, damn. didn't mean to do that. So Beverly is not convinced about Sev's natural death. She compares her biofilter files from the transporter from the readings she took from her tricorder just 3 days later. The readings indicate severe psychological damage in just 3 days. Deanna is, meanwhile, aging rapidly, just horrifically. I once again want to point to my new favorite movie, The Substance.
Oh, yes.
the horrors of aging. One of the scariest things you can ever face. So Troy tries to attack Alcar when he tries to leave the ship without her, and ends up stabbing Picard when he gets in the way. So Picard's like, no, none of this. So Beverly finds increased neurotransmitter residue in Deanna, the same that she found on Sev. So now Picard allows Beverly to conduct an autopsy on Sev, which proves the late Sev Maelor is no genetic relative of Alcar. Plus, all of the organs in her body were of a 30-year-old. So when confronted, he admits Sev was not his mother. Alcar was joined to Sev, and the joining drains the receptacle's life energy so he can do his diplomatic work for peace without emotions burdening him. He used the method to unload his darkest thoughts to his receptacles, and Alcar had to use Deanna as Sev's death was sudden and unexpected. Deanna is an empath, and Alcar needed someone he could establish a link with, and even he is surprised by how quickly she is aging, as his receptacles typically survive for about 2 years. Fuck off, guy.
Yeah, exactly. I did not like this episode.
It's I cannot wait to get into why this episode is the way it is. So Alcar justifies it because he prevents wars and saves thousands of lives. He refuses to release Deanna. His entourage forced Picard to go back to his ship and activate the force field around the planet. Beverly plans to, air quotes, kill Deanna, thereby forcing Alcar to find a new receptacle from his own entourage. Once the link with her is broken, she will revive Deanna, so long as it's within 30 minutes. So she does it. Alcar finds another woman and begins the thing with her, and he gets interrupted. He ages rapidly and dies, and Deanna is fine. Once again, having just a horrific experience with a man she just met. So, this episode.
Yes.
The episode after this, Relics,
yes,
was initially intended to be filmed in this episode's slot, but this episode was pushed Relics was pushed forward due to the schedule of the guest star that we'll talk about in the next episode. But consequently, this episode, Man of the People, was written in a rush. So,
okay,
not much thought given.
So it was the writer's room going, "Oh, let's have Deanna get raped again."
Guess,
Yeah.
But this is also Star Trek's version of Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray.
Yep.
Both Dorian Gray and Vess Alcar appear young while they invest their emotions into something else. Alcar's doomed ship in the opening scene is called Dorian to affirm the reference.
On the nosy. Yeah.
A little on the nose. Once again, begging everybody to go see The Substance. That's what this movie is. This episode.
Screen Rant referred to this episode as the 6th worst episode of
Only
Next
6th?
Generation. Only 6th.
That's okay. We have Schisms to talk about coming up too.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But
yeah.
Let's move on to Relics,
Let's
which
talk
is an
about
episode.
a good episode.
Which is an episode that a few friends of mine were like, "Cannot wait for you to get to this episode." The Enterprise stumbles upon a Dyson sphere with a ship crashed on the outer surface. An away team finds some systems still powered up and the chief engineer from the old Enterprise, Montgomery Scott, locked in the transporter cycle. I had no idea my friend Scotty was showing up, so this was a pleasant surprise.
Oh, really? You didn't know? Oh, cool.
I had no idea. So the Enterprise locates the missing transport ship, the USS Jenolan, and the ship was supposed to be missing for 75 years, and it is found to be stuck on a round object large enough to cause gravimetric disturbances, which fits the theory of a Dyson sphere, which is a body constructed around a star large enough to contain an entire star's powers. Personal note, I think Dyson spheres are so fucking fascinating.
See,
just the idea.
I thought it was just made up until the show until the show explained, no, this is something that is a real thing that a guy came up with. And I went, oh, okay. Yeah.
It's like a level something civilization where when society advances enough that they can create their own energy by building a Dyson sphere. The concept of it's pretty cool. And my dog just found his squeaker toy, so just ignore him. So the inhabitants of the sphere have access to limitless power and energy. So Riker's away team investigates the wrecked ship and finds a permanent diagnostic loop in the transporter buffer. Geordi guesses that this was a clever method to survive for 75 years, and it was used by 2 men. My friend, hey. No, no, you want that. So there were 2 patterns in the transporter buffer. One of them has degraded it's degraded enough that they can't. Sorry, that guy's gone. That guy's gone.
Franklin.
But,
Franklin.
but the Enterprise's chief engineer from Kirk's days, Montgomery Scotty Scott, is alive and well and wants to be useful. God bless him. He's technically like 147 years old by now. So Scotty says how the Janolan approached the sector on a routine survey and found the Dyson sphere, just as the Enterprise did. But their aft propulsion coils gave away during the survey, and it crash landed on the surface, where it has been stuck for the last 75 years. After trying Geordi's patience with his ignorant questions and dangerous presumptions, Scotty didn't know that the engines use multi-phase auto-containment now and almost blew up the engines. Also, Scotty didn't know. That's a fun movie reference. Euro trip, everybody. Scotty didn't know that the ships grow their crystals inside the dilithium chambers, and so Scotty feels ready to retire. Geordi tells Scotty that he's just in the way, and he's offended. This episode has a lot to say about aging as well, and existing in society. And elders need jobs too.
Yep.
They need to be treated as useful.
Well, and Picard keeps, through the episode, he keeps counseling Geordi. He says, look, I know he's frustrating, but come on,
He's
helpful. He just wants to be helpful. Give him something to do,
Just wants something to do. So these sensors indicate a G-class star inside the sphere and a Class M atmosphere, capable of supporting life but giving no indication of life itself. Scotty admits to Picard that he does not belong on Picard's Enterprise and can't bring himself about to learn all the new technology nowadays. Picard asks Geordi to take Scotty's help in accessing the memory banks of the Janolan, as they had already conducted a survey of the sphere before their crash. Geordi and Scotty beam onto the Janolan. Meanwhile, the Enterprise checks out an airlock on the Dyson sphere. Suddenly, a tractor beam locks onto them and pulls them into the airlock, which opens. The ship loses all power as the tractor beam drains them of their power source, and once inside the sphere, the ship starts falling towards the star, as it still has forward momentum and no way to stop it. Picard and Riker use the thrusters to push the ship into a stable orbit around the star, and scans reveal that the sphere is abandoned and the star is extremely unstable. As the flares from the sun increase, the shields of the Enterprise will not be sufficient to protect within 3 hours. Scotty and Geordi find the Enterprise missing from orbit and speculate that it has gone inside the sphere. Scotty and Geordi work together to bring the engines of the Janolan back online. They also figure out that the airlock through which the Enterprise was pulled inside the sphere. Scotty plans to trigger the airlock open by hailing at Enterprise frequencies, but from a distance, so that the tractor beam can't latch onto them. Also, when the lock tries to close, Scotty plans to jam them open with the Janolan, giving the Enterprise a chance to escape. Geordi protests, saying that the locks are huge and will crush the Janolan, but Scotty assures him that the tolerances are built in and that the shields of the Janolan will hold. He executes the plan, hails the Enterprise, locks open, Enterprise escapes, beams Scotty and Geordi aboard, blah, blah, blah. As a tribute, Picard gifts Scotty a shuttle from the Enterprise to get to Norbin. This is a planet that Scotty has headed to for his retirement on the Janolan 75 years ago. This also left out an entire scene where Scotty goes to 10 forward and asks for a whiskey, is given synthahol, and goes, what?
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Not serving. You gotta serve booze on these ships, damn it.
And then Data comes up, and Scotty, he reminded me a lot of the drunk uncle character from Saturday Night Live, where Data walks up and Scotty's like, "What are you, some kind of queer or something?" Like, that was very much the energy I was getting from drunk Uncle Scotty. And Data whips up a drink for him, and it's a green beverage, and us original series fans catch. He's gonna say it. He's gonna say the thing. Scotty's gonna ask what it is, and Data's gonna say it's green, and they're gonna drink it, and they do, and he does.
That was, according to my show notes, that was Ecto Cooler that they were drinking.
The bottle of Aldebaran whiskey That is the note that I have too. It appears to be a Cuervo 1800 bottle filled with Ecto Cooler,
Yeah.
which I would like to have in my own house.
It is green.
Scotty scolds Geordi for being honest with the captain and telling him exactly what to expect instead of making him expect less and then offering more. Indeed, in Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, he hints to Kirk that he might overstate some problems to make a better name for himself after he solves them. Welcome to the future where we are honest and not trying to propulse our way forward through.
Well, how do you expect him to keep his reputation as a miracle worker? That's the whole thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But I also like the way he talked about ship's captains. I love the way he put that. Oh, they don't understand.
Things are different, Scotty. But I loved when they beam him onto the Enterprise the first time, and it's the old school sound effect and lighting effect. I was like, oh my God, it's going to be one of my friends. And then Scotty shows up and I'm like, oh my God, it's my friend Scotty. Yeah, fun, but also difficult. Like, I really loved the conversation that Scotty and Picard had on the holodeck that was a replica of the Enterprise A.
No bloody A. Constitution class.
This is my ship. I really loved and Scotty's realization of, man, I guess I don't have to do this anymore. Like, a difficult realization to come to, but
it's okay. Go fishing.
It's okay. Go hang out.
Go hang out and enjoy what you got left.
Go build little RC cars or something.
Anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last episode I'm going to talk about. I barely have to talk about this episode.
Well, before we leave Tapestry.
Yeah. Relics.
Or Relics, sorry. Jumping
You
ahead.
just got Tapestry on the mind.
I do. I'm pissed off. Anyway, in 2003, Freeman Dyson was interviewed about this episode. He apparently never did take his Dyson sphere thought experiment seriously.
Oh.
He said he just came up with it. He's like, here's an idea. He watched the episode. They showed it to him. He watched the episode and he said that he found the science behind the story was nonsense. This is your science, dude.
This is you came up with this.
He says, but from a TV viewer's perspective, I enjoyed the episode. And there is a novelization of this episode.
Oh.
And it's Michael Jan Friedman, who's a really good Star Trek writer, if you ever get a chance. He expands on the holodeck scene. Of course you would in a book, because in the book, he recreates not just the bridge, but the crew from their youthful heyday. And now
don't like that.
Now, that was in the original script, but was cut because obviously it would be too expensive. But he also adds some backstory on Scotty's trip on the transport ship in the novelization. The interaction between him and Franklin, the crew member who was stuck in the transporter. And a subplot where an away team beams down onto the originally habitable interior surface of the Dyson sphere. So that's all in the novelization of the episode.
That's crazy. How many novelizations of episodes overall?
I don't know.
Is that a number that the limit does not exist?
That's a Lee George Kade question. I know that there are a lot of, I've seen and read a few novelization of episodes where they expand on the story. I've seen them.
Okay. There's so many novelizations of things. That's enough. That's enough, Star Trek.
That's enough.
That's
all right.
It's because, you know what? It's before fanfiction.net and AO3 existed.
Oh, okay. Here we go. One of 5 novelizations to be made from Next Generation episodes: Encounter at Farpoint, Unification, Descent, All Good Things, and this one, Relics. So there you go.
Interesting. I'm looking at Pocket Books Pocketbooks was the first publisher given license by Paramount Pictures to produce a series of original novels and episode novelizations based on Star Trek The Next Generation starting in the late 80s. Nearly all next-gen novels, technical publications, and adaptations have been a part of this ongoing series, and they just have a whole list of assorted
there's
independent
so many.
novelizations.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I feel like I'm scrolling for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
There's a lot of Star Trek novels out there, and a lot of original stories, mostly original stories. But it just and they're all different, and some are interesting, some are terrible.
You could just live in the Star Trek universe forever.
You could. I read the one that was written by George Takei, that he wrote about his daughter and him on an adventure. And then I also read one about Andrew Robinson, the actor. He wrote a whole novel from the point of view of Garrick. That was a really good one, because you got some backstory on Garrick. Because in Deep Space Nine, he's very mysterious. Doesn't really spell out a lot,
So I've clicked on one called Q-in-Law. When two powerful rival families of the spacefaring merchant race are to be joined through marriage, the USS Enterprise D is chosen as a site for the wedding. Delegate from Beta Z, Lwaxana Troy. Lwaxana's romantic overtures toward the captain. But then Q shows up, who has come to examine and challenge the human concept of love. Suddenly the festivities are in turmoil. Lwaxana Troy is determined to teach Q a lesson in love that he will never forget. I'll read that one.
That was a good one. Anything by Peter David, trust me. If Peter David's writing a Star Trek book, read it.
Hilarious.
And also, speaking of reading, and Scotty, now that you know that he still exists in the universe, he is in the current Star Trek comic book.
Current Star Trek comic book. So when does that
from IDW? It takes place in shortly after. Well, it's a few years after the end of Deep Space Nine.
Jesus
is when it takes place.
This man's gonna live forever.
Yeah, it's got a lot of recurring characters. It's got well, I'm not going to tell you, but Scotty is one of them.
Oh,
and where there's a Scotty, you know that there's
alcohol.
A Spock.
Oh.
Yes.
That's too much. There's too much. This is too much.
No, it's wonderful. It's actually a pretty good read. I've been quite enjoying it. There are two Star Trek comics from IDW right now. There's Star Trek and then there's Defiant. And they're both really good. They both got a lot of different characters from different shows that are all in the comic, which is what you want. You know.
Yeah.
You want that character. You want Worf. You want this guy. So.
I want to meet the person who just devours every single Star Trek something that exists and nothing else.
I don't want to meet that person. I like geeks. I'm not sure about nerds. I mean,
everything in moderation.
That's a Jay Whittaker line, by the way.
As the Buddha says, everything in moderation.
Exactly.
This last episode, Schisms, I hated it so much. Riker can't fall asleep, and other members of the crew have deja vu or missing memory gaps or whatever. Turns out they're being portaled away by some fish aliens who are doing experiments on them.
Well, this was their X-Files episode.
Yeah, I guess. It was boring as hell.
Yeah. This was their X-Files. This was their alien abduction X-Files episode.
Like, I literally don't even want to talk about it. I was so bored. Riker was pissy because he was sleepy, and everybody else was like, hey, wait a minute, I guess I'm having issues too. And then they go to the holodeck and put their brains together and figure it out, I guess. And they've been being portaled away into this like little pocket universe so that these fish monk alien guys can do experiments on them and keep the people alive.
It's because of the Ode to Spot poem.
The only good part of this
the
episode.
only good part, the Ode to Spot.
In which Data tries to write a poem about his cat. That was nice. I liked that.
I think they were going for, like I said, they were going for a scary episode, or but I as I recall, and I could be wrong, this was right about the time that X-Files was starting to take off.
Well, let's see.
Like I said, it's 92. It's October of 92.
And X-Files started in 93.
Oh, okay. Well,
so maybe X-Files.
Maybe it's
is
not their
inspired
X-Files.
by this.
Yeah, it could be.
But I mean, a lot of things happen concurrently, right? Like Dante's Peak and that other one, that other
Dante's
movie.
Inferno. Yeah.
But how zombie movies come out at the same time, vampire movies come out at the same time, X-Files-esque type shows just happen to be around at the same time.
Dante's salad dressing was another one.
Jesus, you're just saying things.
Dante's Jello mold was one.
No. Stop this.
No, I mean alien abduction has been a recurring theme in sci-fi. So if not X-Files, I'm sure they went alien abduction.
Yeah, like I truly could not even be bothered to look up like interesting trivia about this episode, because the only other like interesting piece of trivia is that the poem "Ode to Spot" later appears in A Fistful of Datas, which we'll talk about in an upcoming episode. Very excited.
Yes.
But like literally the only good piece of trivia. This is the final appearance of that bullion barber, Mr. Mott. That barber that I loved so much.
The last time we see him? Oh.
The last time we see him. He's discussed later in Starship Mine. But we never hear from him again.
That's too.
And I loved him. That gossipy bitch.
He had a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Did he ever show up on... He had to have shown up on Lower Decks, right?
I was going to say, if there's anywhere he should show up, it's Lower Decks.
Absolutely. Give Mott a chance on Lower Decks.
The man is fabulous, and he deserves to be...
Justice for Mott.
This episode is famous among fans for Data's complex, overwritten poem.
Yes.
Yeah, like literally,
That's the only good part of this episode is the Ode to Spot. That's it. Everything else you don't need this episode. You really don't.
I literally just ignore this episode. Like no, I half paid attention to it. I was so bored. And you know what? They can't all be winners, and that's okay.
No, that's true.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You do a lot of episodes like this. You do a lot of, you bring back the 22 episode season, right? A lot of Lost discourse is going on right now because it just had its 20th anniversary, and a lot of people are saying that was the end of the true TV era.
Really? Oh, I disagree.
I mean, well, since when do we get full seasons of 22 episode hour long?
Oh, okay. I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When when was?
Yeah.
We don't really get that anymore.
Okay. It's a matter of opinion. It's art. You can't,
But and that honestly, this group of episodes kind of felt like eating our vegetables, right?
Yeah.
Like we kind of just had to get through it.
Yeah. I mean, we got some good ones coming up.
Yes, I'm very, very, very excited. So the next episode, we're going to talk about True Q, Rascals. This group of... Okay, so True Q, Rascals, A Fistful of Datas, and The Quality of Life. True Q, my man Q coming back. Rascals, directed by Adam Nimoy.
Ah.
A Fistful of Datas, directed by Patrick Stewart. And The Quality of Life, directed by Jonathan Frakes. So we've got just like a fun run of episodes directed by our friends and reappearances of the love of my life, Q.
Now, how far ahead are you? Or are you just keeping up?
I'm not. I'm just keeping up.
You're just keeping up? Okay, Then I won't say something about The Quality of Life.
Oh, now I'm dying to know.
Do you want to know?
I do.
Peanut hamper.
Shut up. What? This episode introduces the exocomp robots. Oh my god.
Yeah. It's Peanut hamper.
Peanut hamper. Okay.
That's exciting for you.
I see you, Star Trek. God Which Star Trek is so fun because sometimes we'll watch episodes like Man of the People and Schisms and be like, Jesus Christ, what is happening?
Yeah.
But then we get fun peanut hamper and a Wild West episode, and I don't know. That's just Star Trek once again remaining top tier. Fun.
Deanna Troi all dressed sexy in a cowboy outfit and twirling a gun around, you know? That's fun too.
Well, that does it for this installment. Any final words about the episodes that we've talked about?
I'm just I'm ahead of you a bit. I'm at Tapestry right now.
But Paramount Plus is never going to let you watch it.
But my Paramount Plus, this is the situation with my Paramount Plus. I don't understand it. When we were doing the original series, my Paramount Plus app thing on my TV would not let me watch Charlie X. Just flat out would not let me. And now I'm running into a similar situation with Tapestry, which sucks because it is my absolute favorite episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. And what my Paramount Plus app is doing is it's letting me get up through the end credits of the opening. So the music goes da 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 ba 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 ba, and then it's black.
And that's the end of the episode.
It's just I don't understand. I try fast forwarding through it. It won't let me. So I go, the back way through the episodes portion of the app, and it lets me get there. And I think, I'll fast through to the end and then slowly rewind up to the point where I was and start. It won't let me. It'll let me watch the last 20 minutes of it.
The good part of the episode.
It is a good part, yes. I mean, the whole thing is good. I love this episode so much. It's all about the paths that you choose.
Oh. How are you watching it? What are you watching it on?
It's on my my Comcast X1 box where all my TV apps are.
Oh,
so I'm wondering if I need to log on to like my iPad or something, and
Well, and I'm wondering, do you have to? Is it an app? Can you uninstall it and reinstall it?
Oh, what a pain in the ass!
I know. Well,
I may have to. I
mean, we don't have to be nice to Paramount Plus anymore because they fired our friend Jake Black. So
yes, that's true.
We don't have to be nice to them anymore.
Exactly.
But please, also please keep Star Trek. Please do not sell it to Disney. I swear to God, I will set the planet on fire if Star Trek goes to Disney.
This is where you and I are. Iron Man, Captain America, Civil War is where we're at, because I would love for Disney to buy them.
I do not want Disney to get its grubby little hands on Star Trek.
I told this story before, but I have my little backpack that I take to Disneyland with me, and it's got the Starfleet emblem on the back of it. Mm-hmm. And you always go through security, and I was going through security, and the security guard looked at that, and he goes, "Yeah, we haven't bought them yet."
I swear to God.
And I went, "Yes, excellent."
We'll start trying to leave the planet. Well, that's gonna do it for us this week here on the Space Show. Thank you, Carrie, for joining me as always.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time. But until then, we will keep going where no man has gone before. But a lot of people have